We're still waiting for Karen, but we can pop into checking through the body a little bit. So we should keep reviewing that a little bit every day. How do you guys feel with the bones that we cruised through last time? Yeah. Can you recall any of the bones that were a little bit slower coming to mind?
Calcaneus and talus are new.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's calcaneus is the heel and talus is.
Yes. You'll usually hear calcaneus. Calcaneus. Yes. Calcaneus is the actual heel bone, and then just above it, that talus. You can feel that. We don't have a model foot, unfortunately, but we do have the posters right behind you if you want to get a little visual. Yeah.
So the ankle is formed from the end of the tibia and part of the talus.
Yeah, they're definitely overlapping. So we've got that, we'll say medial and lateral malleolus are specifically the ridges of the bone. So the medial one is more or less the intersection of the tibia into the talus.
Ankle is composed of 2 bones.
Well, it's really several, because even those tarsals are starting to be part of the ankle as well, that you're maneuvering the ankle through the tarsals too. Hey, Karen.
Hey, sorry to be late.
No problem. We were just kind of reviewing from the bones that we cruised through yesterday, and Eva mentioned that the calcaneus and the talus were a little bit fresh introductions. I was just wondering how everyone was feeling with where are the bones? You got all your bones.
I feel like I'm way behind on the bones.
All right.
I've got the trail guide. I've got the word.
Yeah.
I just need to crack them open.
Okay, cool. I've got a few tracks kind of in development right now that my digital assistant is combing over that are more of the like guided meditation, hypnotic kind of experiences to talk through that I think will be really helpful. I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' feedback on that. To be able to even just like lay down or to sit down and kind of meditatively have that like guided tour through the body on some of the different systems. Yeah, I'm super interested to get your guys' feedback from that as we get them popped up. There's one that's like just an overview of the body systems that's up right now, and she's working on some of those. So those are just on the channel. For today, let's cruise through the major muscle systems really quick, just as we're like still in our movement, coming into the body segment of our class time together. So if you can stand up and just kind of tune into shouting out and give me an idea of which muscle or muscle groups you already feel pretty good about. Starting from the feet. Oh, we don't normally do this because we're not like in kinesiology in this segment, so that'll mostly be your other.
The names of the muscles there?
Yeah, just give me the names of muscles that you have easy access to right now.
The one I know the least.
Okay, muscle systems.
Feet.
Okay, feet. Follow up.
Tibialis anterior.
Okay. You've got that. Tibialis anterior. Gastrocnemius. That's going to be right up under.
Belly of
Yeah.
the leg.
Do you guys have what's underneath the gastroc?
So tibia and fibula are the bones. So it's like
That's right. Tibia,
fibularis,
fibula.
anterior, posterior.
You got some sets there. Yep.
Tibialis, anterior, posterior.
Yeah.
And then deeper layers. God.
Just kind of move them. Like let that start dropping into the body. We've got this like, buzzing bees of vocabulary around the head.
Yeah.
And we want to just send that vocabulary, all that language into the body. So as we're moving and sliding, like just kind of let those muscles get some maneuver as you're thinking about them. Underneath the gastrocnemius is the soleus. It's a super important one for returning blood, that we've got that anti-gravity challenge coming up the venous return, right? And the soleus is actually, as we walk, it has a contractile pattern that kind of mimics and is redundant to the beat of the heart and helps push blood back up a bit. So it's a pretty cool one, important one.
Really, as a muscle, it like contracts. Oh.
Uh-huh. Yeah, right. Okay. What do we got on the top of the thighs?
Sartorius.
The whole group. Just a grouping of them.
Rectus femoris.
Oh, you're being so specific, Eva.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry, the,
Sartorius, rectus femoris are all there. But this is the...
I always think of it as the thigh.
Uh-huh. This is the quads.
Well,
Quads are the
that's
top.
right.
The top facing of the thigh. Okay. And the back of the thigh?
Three muscles.
Mm-hmm.
The name. I forgot.
You're going to dive into these way harder later. Don't stress about it. Just feel it. Yeah.
It's a kind of tendon.
We've got, yeah, lots of tendons. We've got this whole grouping as the hamstrings. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then you guys remember adduction versus abduction?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's how you're going to keep track of these thighs. What's going on the lateral versus the medial edge is the medial muscles of the thighs are going to do what action? Adduction. So these are the adductors,
Oh, okay.
just this whole group. And laterally we've got abductors, which are really more activated into the hip a bit. So then we've got a whole set of more hip-specific booty muscles.
Gluteus
Gluteus,
maximus.
maximus, minimus, and medius. A little set there. And there's also hip rotators up underneath, kind of attaching from the pelvis into the femur. Okay. Piriformis is, yep, one of those. Psoas. Yeah, kind of, well, it's very central, actually. So you've got it running from that very medial, very proximal point on the femur through the hip cavity up into the spine. So it's going to come and attach on the interior face of the spine. So you can't really get it from right here. You can affect it by moving those vertebrae, but you're going to touch it through the abdomen. Okay. All right. Moving up through, we've got this whole region. Abdominals. Yep. You got the psoas, that we can sometimes also say the iliac psoas or iliopsoas, which is the interior. The iliac is the piece of the pelvis, right? And so iliacus is the muscle that's kind of lining the interior of the pelvic bowl. That's going to insert together with the psoas.
Those overlap with the obliques.
Well, I mean, like you could reach through the obliques to get them. They're not super interfunctional beyond the obvious that they're all abdominal muscles.
They're deep, right?
Yeah, the obliques are more superficial. The iliopsoas set is very deep, some of the deepest that we still actively work on. Okay, all right. And moving up into the torso, we've got that. We called out abdominals already. We're just doing kind of broad regions, tuning in a little bit, getting our wiggles into the body with some words. That's all we got right now. It's okay. All right, so moving into chest. Yep. What do we got? Pecs. Pectoralis. That's right. And there's a major and a minor in this set. So the major is what we normally see. The minor is much finer and is running from a few of those ribs out into the humerus. So this is a really key place. I'm sure that like in your hands-on segment, you're playing around with these a little bit more, but any postural collapse that's happening through the back and like this tech neck stuff that we get is causing a lot of extension through the rhomboids, through those like upper back, through the trapezius, right? And that's gonna cause collapse in the pec minor. So you're gonna get them really shortened when the back muscles are lengthened. So opening that back up allows us to kind of restore the scapula, yeah?
For my ear, as it contrasts my shoulder.
Yes.
Pretty far apart.
Yeah, right. And so we're starting to look at that, like what's the lineup of the shoulder and ear, shoulder and hips, hips and knees, knees and feet, okay? All right, moving into the back, what do we got? I just said a handful of the upper back. Rhomboids, traps.
Delts.
Yeah.
Levator scapula.
Levator, nice.
Splenius capitis.
Nice. Splenius capitis.
Capital muscles that support the head.
Capital muscles, exactly. And now you're all the way up into, do you guys have this term here yet?
Occipital?
Occipitals, exactly. Beautiful. And that's a really cool little basket weave system that gives us this like really subtle range to drop the cranium around relative to the upper cervical spine. Okay. Through the arms.
Bicep.
Get those going. Yep. Got the biceps. Grab your bicep. Where is it exactly? Grab the belly. Nice. Belly of the bicep. Okay. Tricep. Show me the belly of the tricep. Yeah, nice. Got that set of them kind of intersecting down there across the elbow. Yep. What else?
Brachii,
Yes. Radialis. Brachii, radialis. Excellent. What about, this one's key. Deltoid. Yep. And the deltoid has a lot of fiber attachments wrapping all the way around here. I'm like bonking the microphone, making it sound horrible probably. But it's wrapping all the way around, so you get this like huge amount of coordination engagement from all these different fibers. Okay. Moving up, we've got, how about on the front of neck? You guys have that at all?
Well, the hyoid is there somewhere.
Yeah, hyoid is a bone.
Omohyoid is the muscle.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
I know there's like a posterior triangle that has the scalenes. Is it scalenes?
Scalenes, yeah. Scalenes are, there's 3 of them.
Scalenes.
Yep.
I don't know.
How about right here?
Oh, sternocleidomastoid.
Sternocleidomastoid. Awesome. Super important. Okay, I think that's good for right now. Wiggle that down. Okay. Perfect. Let's see. Let's go ahead and drop in. We're more and more engaging with the body, learning our own bodies, loving our own bodies, figuring out how to build that love, internal stability, internal supply that we will be able to share with our clients in the future. So let's find that all. As you just grab some of those waves of awareness and focus out of the feet, sweep them up through the body, let them kind of adjust your posture, your alignment, moving into that position of kind of connecting earth and sky through this incredible structure of your skeleton, all the muscles you have to operate it. Move anything that needs moved. Don't be afraid to wiggle. Okay. A few sweeping breaths. Simply bringing that awareness into the body, taking the time to point your sense of awareness and focus inside yourself is going to gradually, steadily or very thoroughly bring you into deeper self-awareness and self-acceptance. Let's jump onto the timeline of your life now that we're moving into this calm, gentle awareness state. And early on, we had a few moments where we looked back into the things that brought you to this place now, the experiences that tipped you towards pursuing a specialization in body work. So tune back into those for a moment. Just remind yourself of that continuity. Early experiences with understanding the potential of touch. Appreciating the experience of your own body. And bring yourself up to where you were at the beginning of this classroom experience, signing up for school, getting registered, meeting your classmates. And just tune into the present moment, how far you've come. The places where you can feel you're still really actively evolving and changing, adding new experience and knowledge. And just let your imagination slide forward into the future. And imagine a body worker that's the kind of person that you are likely to become. Imagine a person with that much more body attunement, self-confidence, ability to help others. And see that person. Just watch them for a little while. Let your mind fill out the details. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What sense might you be bringing in to your world? The external textures, tactile experiences of laying hands on people. The internal knowledge, the interoception of what your body feels as you move more and more gracefully through space, build up your strength and endurance to maneuver in a way that's wholesome for you and your client. Give yourself a little picture of the way that you'll take care of yourself outside of the treatment room when you've really moved into your rhythm of looking after others in such a focused way, the way that you'll also turn that same focus into yourself when it's your time to reset and renew. Take a moment to just be that person. Step into that person. And between you at this moment as a student and your future self, that you can now begin to picture clearer and clearer. Just exchange gratitude for this investment of learning, to put yourself in that position. Exchange love. Just appreciation for that core of who you are and the way that you evolve over time. And maybe even admiration, noticing the distinct values and perspectives that you bring into the world, your certain way. And how cool that is. And just with that warmth and sense of connection, return to your skin. Return to the room, the sounds and sensory information about the experience of the classroom now. Okay. Oh, got some traffics. All right. Today we are talking about more professionalism stuff, and we'll have a few more days of really focusing on seeing ourselves inside of our profession, what our profession is about, what we can do, what we can't do, how we're gonna manage ourselves inside of our professional lives moving forward. So last time we did some of the more practical safety elements. Now we're gonna go a little bit more big picture, philosophical for a little while. Sound good? Okay.
I think we could open the window.
Yeah, let's open the windows. We actually could pop on the AC too. Is that better, Karen?
That'd be awesome for me.
You'd rather the AC? It's probably more effective. I'm noticing the sun is shining straight down onto the windows. Come on, AC. Okay. Get it sealed up in here. It's a beautiful, toasty day in Hawaii. January, February. I keep saying January for some reason. I know, we already cleared Valentine's Day. I think it's 68. That is really loud. I hope we're filtering it out. It'll catch up with us though. Can you guys still hear me okay for just in here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, scope of practice. This is our big picture today. Scope of practice is about the idea of who does what jobs inside of licensure, inside of our professional assignments as caretakers. So we've already hit on that a little bit. We have this idea of scope of practice as massage therapists, of course, allows us to do massage. Let's think a little bit about who else can do what we do.
Like an esthetician can do facials.
Estheticians can do facials. That can involve some facial massage. They'll often hit a little bit of neck, shoulders, hands even, do kind of, scrubs and a little massage on the hands. They're not usually gonna have a problem-solving level of knowledge of the muscles or the bones, but they definitely can do a lot of the technical moves that we're gonna bring in.
What an esthetician is? Where do they work?
Estheticians work in spas generally. They're facialists. They are also a scope of practice that they have that we don't have is like extractions. So being able to do like pressure removal for blackheads and stuff. Esthetician specific. We don't do that.
Physical therapists do
Mm-hmm.
some massage.
Yes, physical therapists often include a segment of massage while they're in the process of navigating the body through structural correction.
To an extent, like someone who works in a nail salon could give you a little bit of a
Yes,
rub.
yes. Even nail salons, you may have a certain amount of foot massage up into the lower calf, hand massage up into the forearms, a little bit of that. Yeah. Anything else come to mind?
Well, when I was in LA, we used to get foot massages, and they would pretty much involve the whole body. You're fully clothed, you're laying in an easy chair, and they pretty much do the whole body.
Sure, like a Chinese style.
Chinese style.
A lot of Chinese foot massage, especially, they'll have that kind of incorporated full body effect.
Doctors will perform like the same palpation routine when they're going over someone's body during an exam.
They could absolutely, yeah, do some palpation. Yep. Every once in a while, you'll hear of a physician who will do some massage and like manually manipulate something that they want to correct.
Physician.
Yeah, just whatever specialization, general practice, etc. Yeah. Okay. Yep, that's pretty comprehensive at that point. That's all of our colleagues that are also gonna do any kind of hands-on stuff. And of course, our estheticians, our nail artists, salon artists are not going to take a clinical approach with the clients. And so they're kind of a group that is a little bit separate on that aesthetic side. And then we've got us. And if you picture it like kind of as a web of the professional network, right? You have the physical therapist, you have other kind of holistic body workers, chiropractors, reflexologists. Sometimes you'll get a specific, get to know a specific reflexology practitioner. Here in Hawaii and most of the states that require licensure, the reflexologists either are only supposed to touch feet, or they have to also get a bodywork license and be licensed massage therapists in order to practice that way. So that's a pretty broad spectrum. You'll have a handful of people who will do some touch-based work that are a little bit of a gray area. Essential oil salespeople, for instance, often will do a oil application treatment that would be difficult to distinguish from massage, and that is an edge where different states have basically different practices for enforcement, although I don't know of any that are technically just no, that's totally fine, we are not worried about it. It's just a matter of what are they going to do about it? Here in Hawaii, frankly, our enforcement is really low, and especially out on the Big Island, I really want to encourage you guys to be the highest quality providers that you can, and really challenge yourselves to go at be doing your most effective work and your most respectful professional work. But it's only fair to let you know that there is almost zero budget for licensure enforcement in Hawaii. And there are people who are not taking the steps that you guys are taking in terms of training, that are really giving themselves their own authority as really pushing into the scope of practice that is supposed to be protected by our license.
I'm just imagining one mall cop type person who goes around looking for massage,
right? I know. Yeah. It concerns me, honestly, any individual person, I don't tend to be all that reactive about, but I do think that on a professional scale, it's pretty problematic, partly because people who haven't had to make the professional investment don't have to carry liability insurance, don't have the obligations to maintain professionalism and accountability, can charge lower. And I think that's really confusing for the consumer, that it creates a value problem in what massage should cost. And I do sometimes have people approach me with weird questions about why does it cost that much. I'm fairly expensive, honestly, but the people who are seeing posters of like, oh, I could just call up somebody who's like a massage body worker, handyman, babysitter, and spend like $25 an hour.
You can watch my pets and like just nanny my kids.
It's confusing, exactly. That it creates a dynamic where for the consumers, their idea of how good massage could be is dragged down by having, that pushed at them of like the potential of really not clinically sophisticated massage at really low prices. Then they don't know how to tell the difference.
Right, and then like
Yeah.
being new to Hawaii, for example, and you're seeing like street signs like Hale,
Yeah.
street, and they understand maybe that it's like house of prayer. Good. But then they kind of make a mental connection to misconceptions that someone who's not trained tells them about like medical stuff.
Exactly,
It turns into this
exactly.
big cluster.
And we're having these days where we're focusing on scope of practice. We're going to talk about ethics. We're going to talk about professionalism. I wish that we could unpack it a lot more because there's so much there. People who are just sticking a table in the back of their van and did not have these conversations are not going to downregulate their impulse to tell people what to do. And that's also problematic because in our scope of practice, we are not diagnosticians and we're not prescriptors. And so, again, it's just a place where there's confusion, and the value in the barrier to entry of acquiring a license is that you have at least some standardization of what information we're exposed to in our process so that we can give a little bit more cohesive experience to the clients that we are working with. So that's on there. This is probably a good time for me to tell my horror story. This is the story of why I personally do not receive massage from unlicensed individuals that I'm not training, which I love to get on the table with students when we already have that agreement of like, we're gonna talk through all these experiences and build our cumulative knowledge and share that, right? Versus like going to see somebody who just is untrained and feels like they're good enough and that's enough. And so this is my personal horror story. I did something terrible. Okay. 24, probably. I was probably like 24 years old. I grew up in a family that was very tactile, we were always wrestling, we were jumping around. I was fairly intuitive and we were poor. We didn't have a lot of like access to medical resources generally. And so it was like, if I could look something up in Grey's Anatomy and try to like figure it out, then we could maybe skip doctor's appointments that other people would have gone to. And like, I would do it. I was like at 12 years old, like I will try to be the doctor of the family, which, that's all kind of hyperparentalization trauma to unpick over the course of a lifetime, but it's fine. I've got it handled more or less for right now. But so 24, 25 years old, my dad had some kind of like neck crick thing going on, and he was like aching. And we had this rhythm where we would sit as a family and watch movies, and a lot of times somebody would just like have a limb draping over the next person and you'd just start mushing on it because like we would have had fidget spinners, but we just had each other, you know what I mean? And so my dad had like scooted up into my zone and I'm sitting on the couch like working on his neck, and like you get a sense for it when you spend a lot of time hands-on with people and you can find those knots and you feel the way that they sometimes unpull and release. You like learn the pattern, and I was pretty confident with that. You guys already see where this is going. So as we're watching the movie, not that tuned into each other, realistically, and I don't have a strong grasp of what else is in the neck, I dove right into the carotid artery.
Oh my God.
I did, and I held it, and it's not that uncomfortable, turns out. He made no protest. Yeah, it's weirdly easy to do. So I collapsed the blood supply to his brain for probably at least 15 seconds.
All right.
That's why this is a horror story. You're on the edge of the seat, Eva. He died. He stopped his heart and his breath completely stopped, and I got the like death rattle. He like rolled back in my lap. Fortunately, there is a reflex that you can re-trigger. We did not know what to do. My mom is hysterical, running laps around the the house is laid out in a loop, and she's literally like panic mode, can't get her phone open, trying to get EMS, and she's like do CPR, and I'm not trained in CPR. Like, I was completely untrained. I was a preschool teacher. Like, this is not my, I had done it on a dummy with like a 4-year-old dummy size, like 4 years ago or something. And so I'm like trying to do mouth to mouth kind of and like making it up. Fortunately, the reflex to re-stimulate the heartbeat can be activated with facial stimulation. And this is something that is actually done clinically by heart specialist doctors, where they'll restart the heart with a carotid intervention. And then typically, my understanding is that like they're prepared with like a bowl of ice water, and it's basically the dive reflex that makes your whole sympathetic nervous system activate really fast and get super efficient with oxygen. And so they'll dip people's faces in ice water to reactivate that. Somehow I got it going with like attempting mouth to mouth. And he resurfaced, and my mom's standing there, I'm standing there, and we're like, we're like completely panicked. He's like had lost consciousness, so he's just showing back up in reality, like, and he goes, "Are you guys okay?" And it took us probably an hour of like defragging. We're like trying to weigh, like, are there signs of stroke? Like, was this a cardiac event? Like, heart attack thing? Like, what's happening? But he really was fine and actually said he felt really good. And so we were kind of confused. He's like, "Don't call the ambulance." And we're like, "But your heart was stopped. Like we couldn't get a pulse, dude." Like, it was bad. So, oh, we're gonna have a parade right now.
Start to
celebrate.
Like, did that even happen? Like,
Right?
Am I going crazy?
It was crazy. So that is something that is surprisingly easy to do, and it's not the only thing that can happen so fast in the body, where being taught the procedure of like how to kind of assess the difference between muscle and other tissue when you're going to do a trigger point release, like, this is actually really key. Having those awarenesses of the locations of the body that are endangerment zones is really key. So this is all building up in support of licensure is actually quite important, and having some standards to access is quite important, and I'm really proud of you guys going for the whole deal on accessing scope of practice. So moving deeper into this scope of practice idea, unless you guys need to like take a breath. We need to recover from my horror story.
Your dad's okay.
Right?
Glad you didn't kill your dad.
Glad I didn't kill my dad for too long.
For longer than you had to.
Yeah, it was scary. It was now a long time ago where we're all pretty relaxed, but to be honest, I was like kind of like PTSD response about it for like several years after. But like going through that moment it was rough. Fortunately, he was not at all traumatized. He sometimes talks about like that restart was like a once in a lifetime. Like, where would I go to get that done on purpose? I'm like, no.
You started a special clinic. No, don't do that. Did that contribute to your want to get licensure and like become a massage therapist?
Honestly, if anything, it was a little bit of an inhibition that it like took me a while to like work back up the confidence level of like I could touch people and help people.
Yeah.
So there's a like I don't want to touch anybody. Sometimes they die. Yeah. Okay. So, scope of practice. We've covered who else has some overlap with our scope of practice. I want to get into what our scope of practice limits. And I've said this a handful of times before. We are not diagnosticians and we are not prescriptors. And so, what does that mean to you? One at a time. We are not diagnosticians.
We do not tell people, I think you are diabetic, or I think you have a curved spine, or I think you have some ailment or whatever. We don't say that.
Right. We're not going to name a condition for them. Anything else?
Diagnosis.
Keeping also like any suspicions of what something someone might have in your personal life to like really, I mean, this would just be personal, but like making sure that anyone that's coming to me as a confidant or as a friend, like, hey, I think this is going on, can
Right.
we, like, sit down and talk about, be like, okay, I'm giving you this my opinion as a friend, not as a
Yes.
therapist.
Yes. That's a great point, Eva, that distinction between when we're interacting with people as professionals with our massage therapy hat on versus when we're interacting casually, that there may be lots of moments where somebody kind of wants your impression or your intuitive read about something and it might be useful to them, but being really clear that you're not drawing on professional authority when you share in a more casual, friendly way. Yeah.
And I think that could intersect sometimes with like scope of practice. Like there might be a moment where you're a bit unsure, which is just a good moment to tell that person. Like just keep saying I'm not a diagnostician, I'm not a professional.
Right.
I didn't go to med school.
Right. You may have situations where a client is in some way pressuring you to produce a diagnosis where they don't want to go pay the $400 to see the specialist that could give them the real assessment. They want you to take that liability risk and tell them the information that they want, you know. And so having that super clear, super embodied to just feel like I'm not the one to answer this question this way. Karen, you said something interesting where you're comparing like not being the one to identify, say, diabetes. And you also said curved spine.
Yeah, like scoliosis.
Yeah, scoliosis, exactly. So that's a really interesting example where we're not going to say a scoliosis, but we actually can make mechanical observations. That we can tell somebody your shoulders are asymmetrical, or we can tell somebody the rotation of your spine through this segment is dropping this shoulder and this hip in an oppositional way, or there's some kind of asymmetry. We can say the alignment of your humerus as it meets the shoulder girdle is pulling forward or is collapsing into the front. We can describe what we see if we're keeping it in the objective,
We can't say,
but we're not
"Your
going to name a
something's
condition.
dislocated," or "Your this is that."
Right,
You know, we can't use
Right.
those,
Like
trigger terms.
when
Right.
I was like noticing that my right hip is a bit more protrudy than my left, and then
protrudy.
I think those were this is protruding. And then we went over herniated discs, but it wasn't that it wasn't saying. Also, it was because we're in an educational setting, but it wasn't
Right.
saying ever
Educational
that
setting.
You have the herniated disc. It's that I've noticed this, and this is what this is.
Yeah.
And you can make the connection if you want to.
Exactly. Great distinction where we have that power of education. We can tell them facts about how bodies work and how the world works. We can tell them facts about what their body is actively doing and even give some amount of contrast between what their body ideally would be doing. We're not going to compare one body to another body, but we can look at somebody that has like dysfunction in the knee with a possible like ACL tear, right? And we can be like, when there is an ACL tear, we may see a movement that is destabilized. And when there is not, I expect the movement, like in your healthy knee would do a movement more like this, and let them observe the difference. But you're not going to say, obviously your ACL is torn. Get it? It's a little subtle. It's a little sophisticated. You have to be a little bit subtle and sophisticated.
Can we say some people who have this symptom have this condition? Like, we're not telling them they have that condition, but
Yeah.
so when other people, when some people's spine has moved this way, it's been known as scoliosis. Could we use that term in a hypothetical sort of?
Like, can you ever say scoliosis?
Right?
Right. Great question. Yes. So what I would probably most often find myself saying in that situation is, I'm seeing this sign. I would probably actually not say anything if I didn't have 2 or 3 different signs. So I'd be giving them the list of, I'm seeing this sign, you're reporting this symptom. Considering that we do have 2 or 3 signs or symptoms, I would really like you to see a specialist or to take back these questions to your general practitioner. I would like to escalate this up the referral chain to whoever you would go to next, but I want you to see somebody about ruling out scoliosis.
Or you might say something like, does anyone in your family have scoliosis?
Sure, like
Like,
let them kind of
is that in your
stir.
history, or
Yeah.
Is that in your family's health history?
Yeah.
You could ask that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the language is inspiring them to move in a direction, like to go somewhere, but not to sit with the problem and not to diagnose themselves.
Right, right. And that's great that you're tracking like the goal there. And so if you have decided that you want to prompt this person to respond in a certain way, you can find a way to use the verbiage that is not diagnostic but still gets your point across. The caveat there is that suggestion is so powerful, right? And so if nobody else in their sphere was going to say the word scoliosis, and you really only have like one symptom or sign, and like if we get in the habit of kind of finding ways to toss off diagnostics anyway, we're actually going to cause the client's anxiety level to go up, and anxiety is going to decrease their responsiveness with other practitioners. It's going to make it harder for them to make the phone call. They're going to have more internal resistance, and on a physiological level in the nervous system, they're going to heal worse. They're going to have less active available recovery energy to actually address the core of the problem if they're like blowing a bunch of that energy on cognitively being in resistance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can experience symptoms of something just by hearing about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And absolutely people have been told like, oh, you look like you might have a little scoliosis. And then they're like fixating on, where's my scoliosis? Can I feel it? And they're feeling for scoliosis instead of for vertical posture, which is what you actually want them to do to correct early possible scoliosis, right? So it's tender. It's like there's a lot of like nuanced little bits of taking this responsibility of being a care provider, of being a recognized authority in their care team, whether or not you're telling them a diagnosis, it's unlikely that they'll fully distinguish you as a potential diagnostician. They're not going to ask that question in their mind, are you a diagnostician? That's your question.
It's kind of like if you tell someone, I want you to really focus on your crown chakra, pulling you straight up. They might start to straighten their spine, or they might just start to feel good about themselves. But it's like you're gonna
Right.
either or. Both are pretty positive.
Right.
You don't want to give them.
Exactly.
I think you might have something that is limiting your factor to blah blah blah, because then they'll just start to pull down by that.
Exactly. So you do have the ability to say the names of some terms if you can carefully not assign it to that person inside of treatment. But we still want to be really tender with it and really careful with using that kind of language only when it's pretty necessary, because like Eva said, if we can prompt them to simply position themselves more effectively in the body, that's going to ultimately be more helpful. Okay, is that all making sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are also not prescribers.
So we wouldn't say something like, have you ever used arnica for bruising? Because that would be like a prescription.
You would certainly not say, I want you to use arnica for bruising.
Mm-hmm.
Could you say, have you ever?
That would be okay.
It feels like a board game, right? Like,
Yes. Yes.
and,
And it is. And it feels awkward at first when you first are like, I got into massage therapy because I want to release trigger points and do some Lomi strokes, not so that I can play cognitive monopoly with the entire language and legislature.
It's because you're really saying, some of it, if you really want someone to take arnica, it's like, have you ever taken arnica? You know, in your mind, that would definitely help. And you could be informed completely and right.
Sure,
But,
sure. There are states where you literally could actively get in trouble for doing that, and that the states are sending people out to do secret shopping and catch you.
Oh, God.
There are places in the country where that could happen. Here in Hawaii, you could realistically be growing arnica and mash it up with opium and sell a bizarre tincture to every single person that comes into your treatment room and get away with it for quite a while. And so I say that not because you should feel free to do anything, but because I want you to really internalize ultimately your professional ethic is gonna have to come from inside of you here. You cannot wait for somebody outside of you to come around and be the enforcer and make sure that you stay inside of your highest good as having professional boundaries. People are getting away with crazy stuff. And if you do that, you might also get away with it, but sit with it deeply, become wise, and choose from wisdom.
It's also
Is that for your highest good or not?
Right, for your highest good, for your client's highest good. Exactly.
But you could say, studies have shown that arnica is a good remedy for bruising.
Right, right. And that puts you in a position as an educator rather than a prescriber to use that specific kind of phrasing. Arnica can be helpful for bruising, or traditionally this herb is associated with the digestive system or stuff like that. Exactly. That your language becomes very important, and you still can have a very expansive impact on your clients' lives if you're careful with how you present that and get it across.
So let's say in my treatment room, I have a little library of aromatherapy books and herbal medicine books
Mm-hmm.
and helpful reference books.
Yes.
After the session, let's say, I pull down a book and I say, have you ever read this?
Mhm.
Or are you aware of this?
Yeah.
And then let them take it from there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not prescribing this.
No, exactly. You're connecting them with resources.
Informing and sharing information is all I'm doing.
Exactly.
I'm not saying you should try some aromatherapy. It's only $300, and I've got a little array of products right here.
Right, right. And can you sell products?
Sure, right?
Yeah, you can. If you want to sell products, you can sell products. I would say, be well within your integrity of sell products that you personally believe in and experience the value that you're trying to share with clients. And, like we don't at all want to do anything to amplify the potential of people experiencing alternative healthcare as like snake oil salespeople and all this stuff, like it does not amplify our clients' health experience if we create pressure or make them feel like consumers when they're trying to feel like clients and patients, right? But if you have a product that you are willing to also do the education work, it's just two different hats. Now you're a person that sells some aromatherapy and a massage therapist. Does that make sense? And being kind of clear with the clients on which one you're doing at the moment, letting them opt in so that if they came in for massage therapy and they do not want to deal with aromatherapy sales, that if you're able to read that and be fluid and basically maintain the original intention of amplifying their relaxation for their well-being and set aside anything that they don't want to deal with
Right, but
in
they
your
come
other
in
hats.
And I say, do you enjoy aromatherapy?
Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. I have these scents I could add to your oil. Would you like to choose one? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe it's an upsell. Maybe it's like this $10
Mhm.
extra.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have these $30 t-shirts right here.
Yep.
Here.
People do buy t-shirts.
Yes.
It's not uncommon at all.
I love a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I love a t-shirt for an experience.
Yeah, show people what you enjoyed, supported. It's cool. Okay.
Tip jar, yes.
That idea of bringing in aromatherapy. When you're a massage therapist, aromatherapy is technically a different therapy. In massage school, we're not training you how to use aromatherapy in the sense of become an aromatherapy practitioner, right? So this brings up another really important scope of practice question. Inside of the domain of what massage therapists do, what is your scope of practice? Does that make sense?
Yeah, what is the extra spicy flavors that I particularly,
Right.
Priestess Karen Renee,
Right.
offer a
Spicy flavors. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So how do we know what techniques, modalities, products, experiences we as individuals have in our scope of practice to offer to our clients?
How do we know?
How do we know?
well, what we've been trained
Around.
What we've been trained
in,
in.
what we're comfortable providing.
Yes, what we can provide with enough fluidity
Confidence.
that it makes sense as a treatment. It's not an experiment.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand the question now. Yes.
Okay.
I was thinking, I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries.
What we want to steal from other people that we enjoy going to.
Sure, you'll always get a massage and pick up one little extra technique of oh, nobody ever dropped my arm back quite that way. I want to replicate that. That'll always be part of your practice that you're
To an extent.
borrowing.
Yeah. So I actually have a question about borrowing. Is there a cutoff point for oh, that's a technique I definitely need training for, versus oh, I can just touch that muscle in a pattern that's a little different.
That's a great question. So when you are finished with this program, you will be trained in classical LoMi tissue manipulation, soft tissue manipulation. So any technique that is soft tissue manipulation, you're going to already have your LoMi framework of how that works, and you're going to kind of adapt that other modality. Maybe their explanation inside of the way that they use their modality is different from your specific training, but you can use your knowledge and understanding of soft tissue to make sense of the way that they think of their technique, right? And so you can exchange through that way. If you feel like you understand why it worked, and that you can clinically time your use of that technique inside of the broader scope of your modality and practice, you can grab anything that you want. Do you stick it on your sign though? If you go get one Thai massage and you're like, oh, I figured out how to do this like alternating pattern thing, and like you don't go update the signage in the front of your building to say that you do Thai massage, right? Like that we have a certain amount of respect to the different traditions and training pathways that people went through, knowing that we're going to continue to depend on our original training unless we go add a complete other, you know, if you go live in Thailand for 6 months and train as a Thai massage therapist, now you can do whatever you want. Like tell everybody you do Thai massage, please. It's great. It's wonderful massage. I'm gonna always pretty much lean on a foundation of like neurological influence Swedish. And that's the pattern that I go to, and that anything else that I acquire is fitting into more or less a Swedish framework in my mind. You guys will have Lomi frameworks in your mind, and you will do Swedish techniques, and you will do Thai techniques, and you'll integrate all these different things across. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Does that make sense there? Okay. Yeah.
I also feel like I would be a little self-conscious over something I just learned from someone else and like not know if I would replicate it perfectly on someone else. So
Yeah.
it might be there
Yeah.
for one massage that I do on someone, then go because it's not my core like
Yeah.
set.
There are a few specific approaches and especially modalities that depend on tools, have a little bit of a special exception where like if you're just using your thumbs at a different angle from how you were first trained because you saw something cool from this other therapist, like easy. If you are adding sticks, rocks, cupping, some of these like mechanical tools, that has a different little bit of level. Like you're not gonna just go get a cupping treatment and then buy some cups and start doing that, right? It comes with a little bit bigger picture grasp of what to do. I think you guys do hot stones training in here, right?
There will be, yes.
Yeah. Some places they don't especially distinguish that. Other places you might actually be required to carry additional insurance in order to use hot stones in your treatment, and to get that insurance often you have to show that you did a training of some kind. They're pretty easy to get. Like, I mean, it's not hard to do cupping or use sticks or use stones or whatever you want to pull in. And you can often acquire enough reasonable knowledge to bring some of that into a standard treatment over the course of like a day or a weekend. You know, you can add a little bit and then you can put it on your signage or on your advertising material once you've done some kind of training for that. But those are some special cases where it's not just like, you know, you had it done to you and then you can instantly translate it across, because there's some impacts and intentions that are different with different tools. It takes a little bit more time to acquire and set with. We have been going for about an hour, so let's go ahead and take a pause and circle back in, I don't know, 6-7 minutes.
7.
All right, see you soon.